What is going on, college basketball fans? Today we got my updated Dannyology Power 35 rankings for Week 10 of college basketball. As always, we're dropping these power rankings every single Monday, along with a bunch of other college basketball content as well. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you guys have not already. Yeah, guys, let's get it started. All right, so here is my Week 10 Dannyology Power 35 rankings. A lot of change-ups from last week's because a lot of top teams took some losses this week. And I'm not going to lie, especially towards the end, but really throughout, there are a lot of teams that you could switch out and have some valid arguments for doing so. And I took a lot of time determining where I wanted each team, especially this week. I always do, but this week was a little bit difficult because of how many teams towards the top lost. But I'm definitely interested to hear your guys' thoughts on my rankings down below in the comment section. So definitely let me know, especially this week, because there is a lot of chaos going on, especially towards the end. But I'll explain it all. Starting up at the number one spot, we got a new number one team this week, and that is the Kansas Jayhawks. I actually got a chance to watch them live play in person this week on Saturday against West Virginia, and for not having a very good rebounding center in KJ Adams, an undersized center, Jalen Wilson, Kevin McCullough, their forwards, and even their guards rebound very well, and that was kind of my biggest notch on Kansas. Can they be a good rebounding team without having a true center down low? And yeah, they proved me wrong right in front of my own two eyes against my own team. They look very solid. They're improving on their three-point shooting as well. They look really good. 2-0 week, both on the road against Texas Tech and West Virginia, two very tough environments in the best conference in the country in the Big 12. Kansas up here at number one. For me, at number two, we do have the Houston Cougars, and Houston still only had the one loss to Alabama. They've been looking really good as of late. Very good defensive team, well-coached team there by Coach Kelvin Sampson. I got Houston up at number two. At number three, we do have the Purdue Boilermakers. The other week they took a loss to Rutgers, but that is still their only loss, and it was only by, 1 or 2 points. So I still think Purdue, definitely one of the top teams in the country. They got a big win earlier today as I'm recording this video against Penn State, so that was a good win. And the Big Ten is all sorts of chaotic right now, so for Purdue to still only have that one loss to Rutgers, looking good. They need to keep it up, though, and they can run away with the Big Ten regular season for sure. At number four, we do have Tennessee, and a lot of people sleeping on Tennessee still. I was checking what some other people were saying, who should be in the top 10, all that stuff. But Tennessee has been killing it recently. They've been blowing out every single opponent that they've been playing in SEC play, and I've been very impressed with this Tennessee team. Defensively, one of the best teams in the country. They might be the best defensive team in the country. Don't sleep on the Volunteers. Rick Barnes and this Tennessee squad have had their troubles in March Madness before, but we'll talk about March Madness when we get there. Right now, Tennessee looking like one of the best teams in the country. I have them in here at number 4 in the country, but number 5 is very interchangeable here with Tennessee. That's kind of the word I was looking for earlier. There's a lot of places on this list where there are teams that are interchangeable. But like I said, I spent a lot of time determining where I wanted each team. I definitely could see arguments for Alabama being above Tennessee. They're very, very close. Both top two teams there in the SEC right now. But Alabama, they've been playing very good recently. Brandon Miller, best freshman in the country, 100%. They got two really good guards. They got Bradley, they got Sears. Quinterly hasn't really been playing as good lately, but if he turns up, then they have three really good solid guards. So look out for Alabama for sure. They look to be for real this season. This is the best Alabama basketball team that I've seen ever since I've started watching basketball. So Alabama in here at number 5. At number 6, we do have the Kansas State Wildcats, and they're jumping from last week. I had them at like 26, I think. So they're jumping up 20 spots this week. I mean, they look very, very solid. Only one loss on the season. Not a good loss, but they were in that game close, the game that they lost there to Butler. But 3-0 in Big 12 play against West Virginia at home, against Texas on the road, which they put up 116 points in that one, and then they go on at Baylor on the road and win that one in close fashion as well. I mean, Kansas State is on a tear. Marquise Noel, one of the best players in the country, it's looking like. That dude, probably the best passer in the country. The only other player I could really argue is probably Yuri Collins at St. Louis. Like, very good player. If you haven't watched Kansas State play, they're on the come up. Look out for them. They're in here at number 6 for me. At number 7, I do have the UCLA Bruins. They've been playing very good as of late. They almost blew one to USC this week, though, but they still came out of there with the W, which is the most important part. And that USC team is a pretty decent team. I'm starting to buy in a little bit more on USC being a tournament team 100%. But UCLA, good win there. They're still in here at number 7. At number 8, I do have the Iowa State Cyclones. They're another team making a pretty big jump for me. I think I had them in the teens last week, somewhere between 17 and 19. So they're up almost 10 spots or so. Another team, 3-0 in the Big 12, picking up some good road wins against Oklahoma, against TCU, with a buzzer beater against a very good TCU team, a TCU team that just played a awesome game before that against Baylor and picked up a win in the closing minutes of that one. So yeah, Iowa State looking very solid, and Iowa State themselves got a good win over Baylor as well, and that one being at home. So 3-0 in the Big 12, 2 of those coming on the road. Iowa State up in my top 10 this week here at number 8. At number 9, we do have UConn, and UConn, I could see arguments for the UConn being higher. I mean, they definitely have the potential to be a national championship team, and, they look really good. They got a good bounce-back win over Creighton, but they still lost yet another game to Providence, so you would have liked UConn to split those games at the worst, against Xavier and Providence. If they were able to win one of those games, UConn would have easily been in my top 4, probably my top 3 or 2 even, but UConn, 2 losses in a row. I know they were coming on the road, but these teams ahead of them, they have been winning, and they deserve to be ahead of them in the power rankings this week. Not to say that like I said, I still think UConn has national championship potential this year, and I think that they can work their way up. They just played in 2 very hard environments, but they got to learn to win some of those games in those environments. Like I said, good bounce back win over Creighton. They're still in the top 10 here at number 9. At number 10, we do have the Texas Longhorns. They took a loss to Kansas State this week at home, but they still only have 2 losses now here on the season, and they did get a bounce-back win on the road against Oklahoma State, so that was a good win there. Texas still in here at number 10. At number 11, I do have Gonzaga, and Gonzaga has been winning a lot of games recently. They haven't lost in quite a while, but they had 2, kind of close ones. One the other night against, I think that was last night actually, against Santa Clara. And Santa Clara, a decent team, but Gonzaga should not be in a nail-biter with Santa Clara. So for those reasons, I thought it was justifiable for Gonzaga to be down this low, especially considering they lost pretty badly in a head-to-head against Texas. So I have Gonzaga down here at 11. They're also just not playing the level of competition as the 10 teams ahead of them at this point in time. So Gonzaga down here at number 11. If they were dominating those competition that they're playing, like teams like Santa Clara, it would be a different story, especially because Santa Clara, a decent team, like I said, but Gonzaga should be able to beat them by more than 2 or 4 points, whatever they beat them by. But at number 12, we do have Xavier, and Xavier undefeated in the Big East at this point in time, looking very, very solid. They did lose earlier in the season to Gonzaga, so I thought this was a pretty solid spot to put them down here at number 12. I think they're up a spot or 2 from last week, still undefeated in the Big East. Like I said, they look very solid. Underratedly so, one of the best starting 5s in the country there for Xavier. Their bench, questionable though. At number 13, we do have TCU. They took a heartbreaking loss at home to Iowa State on not a last second shot, but a 3-pointer with about 2 seconds left. So that's how they lost this week. But earlier in that week, they got a good road win at Baylor in a close game, a high-scoring game. One of the best games I've watched so far this season. TCU, I still think, is a very, very solid team. They're up here at number 13. At number 14, I do have the Arizona Wildcats. They took a crazy loss to Washington State out of nowhere. I mean, Washington State, not a good team at all, so looks very bad. I have Arizona dropping all the way out of my top 5 down to number 14 here. Still think Arizona has a ton of potential, but they have to drop after a loss like that. They couldn't go above any of these other teams that have been winning recently. They're down here at number 14. At number 15, another team that took a very weird loss there to Georgia Tech, but the ACC and the Big Ten, we'll get to them. Trust me, we'll get to the Big Ten, but the ACC taking a lot of weird losses lately, and Miami, they fell victim to that against Georgia Tech. But I still think Miami, very solid team. They have a really good starting 5. Jordan Miller, Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, Norchad Omier. Those are some ballers, man, and they're still up here at number 15. They dropped just, a couple of spots. I think they were at 11 last week, so dropped down to 15. They still have some solid wins on the season. They're in here at number 15. At number 16, I do have Providence, and Providence undefeated in Big East play. I wanted to put Providence higher, but, they did lose to Miami and also TCU earlier in the season, so I thought that this was a pretty good spot for them, and they're jumping up, I think around 10 spots from last week. I had them around 25, 26, so they're still jumping up a good bit from last week, and I thought this was a pretty solid place to put them right here at number 16. They've been looking very good. They can definitely continue to climb if they keep winning there in the Big East. They look amazing. Ed Cooley, awesome head coach. Bryce Hopkins, one of the most underrated players in college basketball. He is a bucket getter. At number 17, I do have the Virginia Cavaliers. They took a tough loss to Pitt. It was in a close game. I still think Virginia has a very solid roster, a veteran roster, senior roster, whatever you want to call it. But Virginia's still in here at number 17, but they're down about 5-6 spots from last week after that loss to Pitt. They did get a bounce-back win over Syracuse, so that was good. Next up, at number 18, we do have Arkansas. Arkansas was a team that I thought about moving down, even lower. I think they're dropping still 4 or 5 spots after a tough loss to Auburn. But then they did beat Missouri earlier in the week at home. So, Arkansas, they're still up here at number 18 for me. I wanted to drop them lower, but, I still think they're a very solid team. They're well coached by Eric Musselman. They got a really good freshman in Anthony Black, rookie counsel the fourth. Jordan Walsh is starting to play better with the injuries Arkansas has been having. So I still think they're a very good team, and like I said, they did just beat Missouri, so I do have them right above them. But I definitely could see reason if you wanted to say Arkansas should be lower on this list. Let me know if you guys think that, and if you do, who would you have above them? But I have them here at number 18. At number 19, staying around the similar spot that they were last week. Missouri, I have Missouri here at 19. Like I said, they did take a loss to Arkansas, and that's why they're right here behind them. But they got a bounce back win against Vanderbilt. Missouri still looking like a very solid team. They blew out Kentucky, which doesn't look as impressive as it once did. They beat up Illinois. Two teams that have been struggling, but those are still two very good wins. Missouri still in here at number 19. At number 20, we do have Charleston, and Charleston has been playing amazing lately. They're in the top 20 now, coming in here at number 20. Charleston looking good. They're my top-ranked mid-major at this point in the season. At number 21, we do have the Wisconsin Badgers dropping out of my top 20 down to 21 this week after taking a loss to who they lose. They lost to Illinois. It's hard to keep up with all these Big Ten games. They're all kind of beating each other. But Wisconsin, they're my second-ranked Big Ten team just behind Purdue, all the way down here at 21. So that's kind of crazy, but that just goes to show you how all the Big Ten teams are kind of beating each other. It's kind of crazy. But we'll see who comes out of this mess, on top. Who, other than Purdue, couple of these Big Ten teams are going to, prevail and take advantage of all these teams losing. We're going to find out here in a few weeks, but this week, it's like I said, it's really messy. But Wisconsin's here at number 21. They still got very solid wins on the season, like a win over Marquette, a close game against Kansas, which I thought was very impressive. Wisconsin coming in here at 21. At number 22, right behind them, like I said, Wisconsin did beat Marquette, and Marquette has been looking very, very good as of late. Marquette only one loss in the Big East, and that was a double overtime game to Providence, but Marquette coming in here at number 22. At number 23, we do have St. Mary's, and St. Mary's, another one of these mid-major teams that have just been looking awesome as of late. They do have a couple of weird losses there early on in the season, but as of recently, they got good win over San Diego State. They almost beat Houston on the road. St. Mary's, from what I'm seeing on the court, because they're blowing out a lot of these teams that, like they're supposed to, St. Mary's looks like, to me, maybe the best mid-major in the country, maybe even better than Charleston, just from what I'm seeing on the court. But St. Mary's in here at 23 for me. At number 24, we do have the Duke Blue Devils, and I really did think that Duke was probably going to fall out of the top 25. They are in here at 24, dropping a good bit for me after losing pretty badly to NC State and barely pulling off a win to bounce back against Boston College. So they're really going to have to turn it around. If they get another loss this week, they're going to be dropping really far from me, because they just have not been looking that good this season, really. But they still do have some very solid wins against teams like Ohio State. They did play Kansas kind of close. I think they lost by 5 or so points very early on in the season in the Champions Classic. But Duke in here at 24. Like I said, I thought that they would fall further, but at this point, so many other teams are losing with Duke. It's kind of hard to move them down much further than this, but if you want to move them a little bit further down, I could definitely see arguments for it. At number 25, I do have San Diego State. Really, they've been playing outstanding lately. They haven't really played anyone with too much competition. They did take a loss not too long ago against St. Mary's, which is why I have them below St. Mary's, but they played some good competition early on in the season. They were in an invitational tournament with teams like Arizona. They got a win over Ohio State early on, so that was good. So they're in here at number 25 for me, and like I said, they have been winning some good games lately. Against, not that great of competition, but they've been beating them like they should. At number 26, I do have the Memphis Tigers. I think a lot of people have been sleeping on Memphis. They lost to Tulane, and everybody just kind of forgot about them, or kind of said, they don't deserve to be in my rankings anymore. I still have them at 26. Even after the Tulane loss, I had them, I think, at 30 last week, and they're up 4 spots after a bounce-back win at against East Carolina. That's not that great of a win, but they did win, and teams were losing ahead of them as well, and they do still have that really good win over Auburn, and they played Alabama super close on the road as well, and they were this close to being Alabama state champions there. So Memphis still in here at number 26. Kendrick Davis, one of the best players in the country. Penny Hardaway, I really do believe that Penny Hardaway is going to start getting some good recruits, and Memphis is going to be on the rise here within 5 years or so, advanced 5 years in the future. I can see it, man. Penny Hardaway is going to have some really good squads there at Memphis. At number 27, right behind them, we do have Auburn, and Auburn, they're a team that I have, talked about. I'm not too high on this Auburn team, but they played the best game that I've seen Auburn play all year long this week against Arkansas. Got the win, put on a defensive clinic. Johnny Broome had 5-6 blocks. It was a block party there in Auburn, and like I said, best performance I've seen from the Tigers all season long. Keep playing like that, and they'll move higher up in these rankings, but still, for now, I think they were in my 30s last week. They're up at 27, right behind the team that beat them in Memphis. So at number 28, we do have Florida Atlantic University. They're 14-1 on the season, one of the best mid-majors in the country. They got a really good win over UAB and Jordan Jelly Walker there this week. That was, going to be one of the most important mid-major games all season long. So FAU, big win there for the Owls. They're in here at number 28. At number 29, I do have Michigan State. And Michigan State, they're one of these Big Ten teams that just snuck in here because they got, back-to-back wins this week, I think against Nebraska and against Michigan. So good wins there. If you're going to win in the Big Ten, you're going to move up above these other teams that are just getting, pulling off some losses, and they got, they have some good games from early on where they almost beat Gonzaga, and they did beat Kentucky, and Kentucky not looking all that great right now, but they still beat them back when they were ranked. So Michigan State, they're in here at number 29. They've been looking good the past few games with Malik Hall back. Big piece to that team, so they're up here at 29. At number 30, I still have Baylor. I could definitely see arguments for Baylor still being a little bit higher on this list, because they are 0-3 in the Big 12, losing 3 straight, but they are all pretty much close games. Other than the Iowa State game on the road, that wasn't that close, and that's kind of the main reason I have them down here all the way at 30, because they didn't play Iowa State close. They did play TCU close, and they also did play Kansas State very close. Both of those coming at home, though, so you would have liked them, to play Iowa State closer on the road and then pull off one of those close home games, at least one of them. So I had to move Baylor down. They lost 3 games. I know it's tough in the Big 12, but they got to move down. I still think this Baylor team, very talented, definitely can move up on this list. They got a big one on the road against my favorite team, West Virginia, coming up next on Wednesday, and that's going to be a tough game. I mean, hopefully my boys can pull it out over Baylor, but one of those teams are going to get their first Big 12 win, so it's going to be a tough one. At number 31, we do have the North Carolina Tar Heels, and, they've been playing better. They've been looking a little bit better. Armando Bacot has really been carrying this team. I mean, he's been looking outstanding. So Caleb Love has got to start shooting better. RJ Davis got to look like that RJ Davis we seen in the tournament last year. This team definitely has a lot of potential still. They're in here at number 31. A couple good wins this week. At number 32, we do actually have the Clemson Tigers. I mean, so many teams have lost recently. It's caused me to dig a little bit deeper into some of these teams that have been doing good. And I watched some Clemson this week, and they got some good wins. Their last 3, I think they beat Virginia Tech, NC State, and somebody else as well. So Clemson been looking pretty good. And Pitt, they beat Pitt on the road, and that has shown to not be an easy place to play this year, because North Carolina went into Pitt and lost, and Virginia went into Pitt and lost, but Clemson went in there and won, and Clemson also has a good out-of-conference win against Penn State this year. So Clemson up at 32. How about them Tigers? At number 33, we do have, speaking of NC State, a team that lost there to Clemson a couple weeks ago. NC State, they got, they torched Duke and beat them by 20 points in Raleigh. That was a really good win. And then they went on to the next one and defeated Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. So that was a good road win there. NC State in here at number 33. We'll see if they keep it up, because they have been very they've been pretty inconsistent on the year so far, and they do lose some games that, I feel like now that people notice them after that win over Duke and Virginia Tech, they might drop one, but we'll see if NC State can finally, get back in the tournament this year. But next up at number 34, we do have Kent State, and you're thinking, Kent State, what the heck? But, they are dominating the MAC conference right now. They do have I think 3 losses on the season. One of those is a very close game to Houston. I think another one came to Gonzaga, if I'm not mistaken, and the other one came to Charleston College, who's up at all 3 of those teams are in my top 20. So Kent State, been playing very solid, and everybody else, they've kind of been dominating. So they're in here at number 34 right now. And that loss that they had against Houston, a very close game. So look out there for Kent State. And at number 35, I decided to go with Mississippi State, because I didn't feel like their losses, they got beat up pretty bad by Alabama and Tennessee, but both those teams are top 5 teams for me. And I still feel like Mississippi State, they came back after that, got a good win against Ole Miss, and we're starting to look like that team that we saw early on in the season from Mississippi State. So I still decided to slip them in there, even though they got beat up a few times, but they did get a bounce back win over Ole Miss. And honestly, compared to the other options, I thought Mississippi State probably deserved it more for what they've been doing across the course of the season. But teams to watch, man, insert any Big Ten team in the teams to watch, and you're probably on the money with what I got here. So we got Northwestern, who has been surprisingly killing it recently, right? They got blown out by Pitt early in the year, which Pitt, we'll get to them, another team to watch for me. But Northwestern defeated Indiana on the road in Assembly Hall. Insane. I don't know what's happening in the Big Ten, which is why it's kind of so hard to make these rankings. And 31 through 35, I was debating on a bunch of these Big Ten teams, which one should get in over the other. They're all kind of beating each other. Well, I decided to just not put any of them in and just put them all in the teams to watch, because they're all just kind of beating each other. And honestly, the teams that I put in probably deserve it a little bit more. The only team that I think probably deserves it at this point is Northwestern. But then you look back, they got beat up at home by Pitt. Not too long ago, they got beat up at home by Ohio State, and not just like last week or 2 weeks ago. They got beat up by Ohio State, so I was like, does Northwestern really deserve it? I don't know, but Illinois, they're starting to win. Iowa's starting to win again after they looked like they were a complete dumpster fire. Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers, Indiana, even though they've been losing, I think that's their second or third loss in a row now in the Big Ten, so tough there in the Big Ten. Insert any Big Ten team there, and that's my team to watch for potentially making the top 35 next week. And also non-Big Ten teams that I'm also looking out for. Central Florida, they've actually been playing pretty good so far this year. They got a big win against Memphis this week, so that's going to be a really fun game to watch there in the AAC. Also, the Pitt Panthers, like I mentioned before, they took a loss to Clemson, but before that, they got wins over North Carolina, over Virginia. So we'll see if they can continue to build off that, even though they lost to Clemson, and they can sneak in here next week. And also Boise State. Big win over Utah State at home this week, blew them out. The Mountain West kind of looking good again this year, so we'll see if we're disappointed by them. New Mexico, Boise State, San Diego State, Utah State, all the states, man. Nevada doesn't look too bad, so we'll see how many bids Mountain West gets this year. That's going to be pretty interesting, but that's going to do it for this one. Let me know what you guys think about the Dannyology Power 35 rankings for Week 10. Like I said, it's a really messy week because so many teams have been losing. I'm sure in a few weeks, a lot of things are going to clear up, and we'll see which one of these Big Ten teams, that's really a big main storyline for me, which one of these Big Ten teams and my teams to watch are going to prevail over the rest and make it into the top 35 next week. So that's going to do it for this one. Subscribe if you guys are new. Thank you so much for watching.